Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Yes, it's me, Graham Moore, otherwise known as Daddy Dragon. And I just want to go through a few things. There are a few things I'm going to go through tonight, this wonderful Thursday night. I'm feeling a lot more confident about Restore Britain in terms of their position of restoration. I've seen a few things out there about restoring the constitution, a number of different people in their groups and these people popping up are saying that thing. I haven't got a problem with that. If they consider it to be a British constitution, I'll try and educate them so they understood, but more for their own beneficial knowledge. Because obviously there is no such thing, and there never should be, a British constitution. For the simple reason you will end up destroying all the four nations. In the same way as the European Union tried to deploy a European constitution, and it was rejected. And then they tried to lie. They changed the name of it, which is obviously what they've done with regionalisation, and called it devolution. It is a Fabian Roman construct to destroy England, right? So again, I'm hoping everyone's out there. But if you look at this wonderful meme that's on your screen, the English Constitution is the solution, and then you can see a little Tinka Bell, a wonderful little Tinka Bell with an English St George's flag covering her. She also wears a whiffin. She also wears a dragon. But you can see the wolf in London, right? And London has been virtually destroyed. And from this werewolf, we'll call it whatever you want. You should all know by now that the Fabian Society's emblem was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And there you've got the werewolf in British clothing. This is how memes should be. They should be deep enough that you look at the image and start to understand from a small amount of written information. So the English Constitution is the solution. It shows Tinka Bell waving her magic wand and having the English Constitution as the wand. And you can see that the werewolf is standing there, and his hat, his regiment right on the front, his pin badge is to Fabians, but his hat, the hat he is actually wearing, is Soviet, right? So do you all understand that? Give me a 5x5, and what's more than that, give me an English flag in the chat to let me know that you do understand that, right? Because I try and make law and these positions as clear as possible. I know it's difficult if people find law boring, but I certainly don't think legal history and the Constitution of England is boring. So everyone's seeing that, and you understand, because I'm going to go back to another conversation. Let's see if I come back on my screen. How you're doing? Yes, I'm still here. So just to make sure you get my position on this, because I think the position should be made clear. I am about self-determination, right? So that means I do not like any form of political union. I don't like it in the US. I don't like it in the European Union. I didn't like it with the USSR. And I especially don't like what they've done to the English. I am about England, right? That does not mean that I disrespect the Scots, the Welsh, or the Northern Irish. In fact, what I am pushing more than anything is that you restore the English Constitution and you restore the Scottish claim of right on that constitutional, and especially the English Bill of Rights, which was the settlement. I have a slightly different opinion with Northern Ireland. One in which all of the main parties were all in agreement. They tried to stop a hard border with Southern Ireland, or the Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland. I kept saying to them, you need to build a hard border. I would have said you need a full on, unbiased debate with all the people on becoming independent, completely independent. But whilst your independence is intact and you govern yourselves, you've got a hard border, but you would also be a protectorate of England, not of the British, of England, right? There are solutions, and in particular, the Fabians crushed that particular opinion. They absolutely did not want that discussed, and the reason is because they are aligned with the European Union, which is communist in nature and Roman in nature. They believe the British Isles is a province of Rome, and they want to continue with regionalisation and the destruction of England, which is the end result of that, right? Because England would be in 9 regions. That's why people in Restore Britain should not speak of. They should be wholly opposed to regionalisation, otherwise known as devolution, right? Now, I haven't got a problem with doing this in stages. The easiest way to sort this problem out is to void, not repeal, void the Acts of Union, right? And you would automatically reset. Now, that can cause some problems for Northern Ireland, which I don't want to do, right? But my objective is to protect England, right? And whilst I absolutely 100% would assist in protecting Northern Ireland from communism, which is what we're talking about, by the way, and what the Fabians and the European Union want to do, and the reason why they don't want a hard border, is because what they're going to do is they're going to make Ireland a complete region. So they're going to, at the moment, it is there is 2 regions of the European Union, the Republic of Ireland and the Northern Ireland. It is 2 regions. Everyone needs to understand what they've done, right? And you can go back, read and watch, and look at what Jimmy Goldsmith produced in the 90s via or just before the referendum party. And that was Britain on the brink, right? Not British on the brink, Britain on the brink, right? That's why I refer back to that. They do conflate British, English, Scottish, whatever. That is somewhat. I can forgive that, right? Because it is state psychological. They are literally indoctrinating people to believe in Britishness, right? That's exactly what Joseph Stalin did, right? Because he was a commissar of the USSR, right? So let's go back and talk about a few things. But one of the major things that I'm going to cover tonight, I've seen a really. I'll tell you what. I'm going to bring it up on your screen. And present company accepted. If I was 40 years younger, right, I see this lovely person right on my screen, and I thought, wow, right. And not only that, my niece's name is Lydia, right, and I'm going to show this on the screen. But I believe she's quite young. I don't know her. I never spoke to her, right, and I'm only giving this a shout. Anyone should go and follow her, really. So I'm going to put that detail out there for anyone to go and follow on Twitter, right? I know, I've no doubt she's probably been brainwashed in some ways to think things that are right, which are wrong. But there she is in the middle there. We're voting Restore Britain. The bit that really got me, I mean, she's got a British flag, right? And that's a parliamentary flag. It doesn't represent England, doesn't represent Scotland, the people in there don't represent us. We haven't got a single English representative in Parliament at all, right? But what she says in her bio says something different to me, right? Restore Britain, branch organiser for London City and East, Christianity, history, heritage, law student focused on constitutional restoration. Now, I said earlier, I've not even got a problem with people. If you want to restore the Constitution, make sure you're, and again, the indoctrination of lawyers, judges, etc. I can show you many judges and many lawyers and many scholars that completely agree with me, right? And again, I'm going to probably, I don't know whether I want to do it on this show, but I am going to reference someone called William Kite, who last year wrote an article or wrote something that is complete and utter rubbish. He is most probably a Roman Catholic, and it is against the Bill of Rights, and him suggesting that it isn't law at all, right? It just shows how brainless this person is. And this is the bit I'm trying to get across to people. He was a teacher for 30 years. He has indoctrinated children, not educated them. And by the way, he's still taking the state pension from that, and you're paying it, right? For someone who is completely against you, right? So again, I just want everyone to understand that. But there this lady is, and again, I've just spotted this Restore Britain billboard here in East London. Give East London a cheer.
Hey.
So, there you go. The party that will finally put the British people first. All right. The fight to restore our great country has begun. So there are things in her terminology I disagree with, right? But the restoration of a constitution, she may call it a British constitution. She's wrong in doing so, right? She's been indoctrinated if she believes that, because that's not how our legal system operates, right? Whereas if I was teaching these people, when I say these people, I mean law students, I would be showing them the evidence like I do on this show to say that what I am putting to you is the truth, and it is legal history. And again, I mean, I doubt very much if she's a member of the Selden Society, for example, that holds the largest historical original records of our Constitution from scholars. And again, King Charles the Third, often called the Turd, or Sausage Fingers, he's the patron of the Selden Society, and the I think it's an acting president or vice president is the Lady Chief Justice. Well, the Selden Society and its records agree with me, right? So, and again, we are members. I go to law lectures. I promote the Hamlin lectures, and I doubt people are actually. Not many people would go away. The retirees are now looking at it, but again, this young lady and others are our future. So, I accept that the state indoctrinates people, and I'm going to go through another couple of things in it. But a fantastic turnout at our first Wandsworth branch meeting last night. This is in South London. Over 80 members turned up. Decent, hard-working people who want better for their city and country. London shouldn't be underestimated. It's virtually destroyed London. Phenomenal, and we're only just getting warmed up. But you do need someone like this man, right? So again, Restore Britain to score 9% in national polls or less. So let me just show this to you because it is important. Not sure if you can.
We have just
achieved 9% in our first national poll, which is a record. It's fantastic that the British people are waking up and that we are collectively gathering together to try and ensure that common sense returns to the way in which we're governed. So thank you to all those who are helping, who are following, and who are playing a part in our meteoric growth. It's much appreciated. We have just achieved.
So again, I just want to make sure everyone gets that. And then I'm going to go on to this guy, if I can find him. I bet I can't find him. He was here a minute ago. Where's my old mucker? That means I have to go back to someone else. Hang on a minute. Stop sharing. I'll go back to my main screen. Let's see if I can find him. Let's see if I can find him. No, I can't. But what we will do... Let's see if I can get into that. What's that one there? Go back on that. Back on that. Oh well, let's go on that one, and it'll be easier to kick it in. Again, so what I'm going to do is go back to Shane. So this is Shane Wiskin, right, who I mentioned the other night. Absolute blinder. Again, independent for CT. So it's Canning Town, if anyone don't know what that is. Let me just make sure I'm sharing this on the screen, because you'll all think I'm going mental. There it is, right? So there he is there. But currently, Shane Wiskin, vote Shane Wiskin. He's got the embassy, look. Must be all West Ham supporter. Strange that, isn't it? Shane Wiskin, independent for Canning Town and Plaistow. English flag. Then he's got the British Union flag. Again, if I was to put flags up outside here, it would be the flag of Devon is at the top, right? Because that is your community in your shire. The country flag next, which is England, right? And the English flag. And then the British Union flag, if you're going to put it up at all, is the last flag. It should never, should never be on the top. It's a bit like having a dog sitting behind you on a settee. And when it sits behind you and sits above you, if anyone knows anything about animals and psychology, the dog thinks it's the governor, right? It isn't the governor. You're the governors, right? It is you that controls that parliament, not vice versa. So, again, I'm just putting that up there. So there it is. And he's not been a member that long. He's not doing too bad at all. All right. So, again, Manderson failed security checks and Starmer lied about it. It must resign. There's plenty of stuff on there. So, I mean, he does put some stuff out there. I stand with Ireland. Listen, Ireland give up its constitution and walked away from England, and it's suffering the consequence of that now. That I'm not gonna. It's none of my business. I concentrate on England and only England, right? So again, there's a few things I'm going to be talking about tonight. So one of the biggest, what's that? So I like showing what he stands for. Taffy Pack, yeah. One of the things. Oh, by the way, this is funny, right? That poll. I went on Paul Morris's show last night, and evidently he now. I don't know if it's true or not. He don't want me back on there because he's a unionist, right? I just think that is the strangest. I mean, yeah, you know what? Censorship is censorship, but he's entitled to his opinion. I didn't like what Paul Thorpe did to him, but he is more aligned with Paul Thorpe than he is with anyone else. But what can I do? Again, I just thought that was hilarious. So I won't be going back on there. It's not that. It's how can I put this to people? The easiest way of explaining this, and people need to understand it. I understand that they think the things I say go straight over their head. That's what they're taking advantage of with people. But when you get people that have been indoctrinated and brainwashed to believe they're British. And I'm not being rude, but especially the Welsh, right? There's 3 million of them. England's being slaughtered. Wales is already lost, right? That's the bit that the Welsh are not understanding. You are already gone. You are already regionalised, right? You are already part of the European Union, right? And people really do not understand that, right? I do not understand it. What's that he said there? Paul Morris is ex-BNP and ex-National Front. Well, I'll bring that up in a couple of seconds because I think that might be a valid thing to put my position. So again, I'm not having a go at him. What I'm saying is that in the way that he has said that, because his audience loved me being on there, right? I was, and there was people on the panel asking me questions. What's crucially important here is to understand that the USSR was dissolved in 1991, right? And they went back to being Russia and Bulgaria, and all the different Eastern Bloc countries went back to their nationhood, their normal tribal nationhood, right? Because the USSR was a political construct created by communists, right? And even now, because there was 70 years of Joseph Stalin as a commissar of identity, right? Forcing a union identity on people, i.e., you are a Soviet, right? And Alexander Zelensky was very, very vocal in what he said about that, that he is a Russian, he is not a Soviet. And he explained what the difference was. And it was one of his bugbears that people conflated the two. So when people like Paul Morris, and again, I'm not having a go at him, he's been indoctrinated by the state to believe what he believes. And I am happy that we are now communicating with younger people that have an ability to think. They can look around and see the problem. Now, I don't know where he lives in Wales, right? But he fucking don't live in London. And he certainly ain't seen the state of the fucking East End and the state of South East fucking London. He hasn't seen the capital city of England be destroyed by these people, unionists, right? So I am passionate that I do believe the only way of dealing with this is to go back to the Brotherhood of Nations, which is the common law union of 1603, right? Where we all shake hands and crack on. And we've still got a great friendship and the claim of right of the Scottish. The Scottish have got the claim of right on the English Bill of Rights, and the English Bill of Rights protected the Magna Carta, which goes back to this idiot called William Kite, right? And let me tell you something, he is a communist. He was a teacher for 30 years, and he is still indoctrinating people to believe something that is untrue, and he's still taking the communist shilling, right, as his pension, right? Do I like the man? No. Do I believe he's doing it deliberately? Yes. Do I believe he should be tried for treason and hung? Yes. And I will personally, with a chainsaw, quarter him, right? That's how much I despise and dislike the guy, right? But I would still debate him and say, come on then, let's show a jury, let's put a jury there, right? A fair jury of Englishmen, right? And let's explain this to people. And then I will go through the law books and show why you're incorrect. And by the way, this guy has not read any of them books, right? He is literally regurgitating what the state has taught him. That's how bad it is. But, so Paul Morris, I'm not having a go at all, right? But someone mentioned something about the BNP. Now, last night I mentioned a guy called Andrew Fontaine. Now, I am more aligned, and even at my age, don't forget, I was 16 years old in South East London when I was on an anti-immigration march through Welling in Kent. £150,000 in 1980 to police it. 2,500 police constables, right? And we marched right through Welling. The BNP headquarters was in Welling in Kent, right? Anjan Chowdhury, the person who is now in prison for life, I believe, right, for terrorist offences and promoting terrorism, right, lived in Welling in Kent, right? So people like Tommy Robinson, right, who come from Luton, right, not London, trying to, we're all together with it. Fuck right off, right? I've seen the difference in London in 40 years, right? Well, in fact, a little bit longer than that. 44, at least 44 years, 45 years, maybe 46 years, right? It is virtually destroyed, right? So getting back to Andrew Fontaine, and this takes us into a fundamental strategic mistake, or not, right? Meaning it may have not, it may have been deliberate. But we lost World War II. We did beat the Nazis. So what they say is we won the war. We beat the Nazis. Technically, that is absolutely true. We did beat the Nazis, and we did bring in the Empire to assist us in beating the Nazis. Where did it get us? It got us the Soviet Union, because we aligned with the Soviet Union. We aligned with communism against fascism. As an Englishman, which is the part, whereas I was having a conversation with Andrew Fontaine, I would say I'm an Englishman, I'm not British, right? And to be fair, if you go back to his earlier times, when I say his earlier times, he wouldn't have called himself British, he would have called himself English, right? Because the Britishness that you're now seeing being pushed everywhere really only come about from 1948. And if you really want to know, even the Acts of Union protected to most degree both the English and the Constitution and the Scottish constitutions, right? The problem is it's been ignored and not enforced, and it is being used against us, which is why the union, and if you take down the union, if you abolish, make void, and it's really crucially important that people understand the difference between a void and repeal. It means it's never been law. In other words, the unintended consequence of what it's ended up producing is so bad it could never exist in English law. It is repugnant to the people, right? And that means that any laws that the British Parliament created, even though there was English, it's separated in English law, Scottish law, Northern Irish law, would completely go. I understand there could be issues with Northern Ireland, but I propose to solve that, and I believe we could solve that. But let me get back to the conversation about Andrew Fontaine. Now, people like Nick Griffin and others. And the earlier members of the BNP, including, as I remember rightly, John Tyndall. John Tyndall and Andrew Fontaine didn't get on. All right. And Andrew Fontaine was particularly vocal as the chairman of the National Front, right, against homosexuality. And there was another guy that was on that march in 1980 through Welling. His name was Nicky Crane, right? He was a prominent neo-Nazi, right? Walked about everywhere in black, could have in black Nazi swastikas. He was a nasty bit of work, right? But just to let you know, he used to go out queer bashing. He used to have lines of, shall we say, skinhead girls at the local youth club laying on their backs with their legs open waiting for him. And I'm literally saying that used to happen, right? Looks out the window of the local youth club, that you can actually see it going on, right? He turned out to be gay, or a homosexual, right? He ended up being a bouncer at a club in London called Heaven, right, which was a gay bar. And he lived with a British Pakistani, whatever you want to call what I don't know if it's sadism or whatever, but used to sort of lead him about on a dog collar and a chain. And the British Pakistani used to sleep in a coffin, right? So I think you can all get what I'm saying. The geezer weren't the full ticket. Nicky Crane was not the full ticket. And even as a young man, I knew he weren't the full ticket, right? But I was on that march. And that was an anti-immigration march when I was 16 years old in 1918. And that type of thing was definitely in line with Andrew Fontaine, right? Just so I'm making my opinions clear, I'm an Englishman. I do not, so I want this expressly known by everyone who's watching this. I am an Englishman. As an Englishman, right, I reject fascism and I reject communism. If there's two evils, and the worst of the worst of the worst evils is communism and Bolsheviks, right? The second worst is fascists, right? Otherwise known as Nazis. And Nazi Germany fought against the Bolsheviks, right? So my granddad believed, and his son, many of his sons was in the second. My uncles were in the Second World War. My granddad was in the First World War, right? And he believed we should have been fighting on the side of the Nazis strategically to defeat the Soviets, right? And it's funny how my mind completely aligns with him, even though I was only a little kid. And again, he was a heavyweight boxer during the First World War, and a regimental champion. So, and a heavyweight boxer. He was highly intelligent. He was an engineer. Again, he had his own factories. He taught all his sons trades and all that. What I'm trying to make sure that you understand is, whilst I am saying to you, I am layering the Bolsheviks are who we are up against now, right? There's a lot of people in America who understand that. President Trump, and the easy way to explain this, he's got two different groups of people fighting each other. On the one side, he's got the Zionists, and on the other, which are basically Nazis. And then on the other hand, he's got the Bolsheviks, which are basically global communists, right? And he's trying to stop the two sides from fighting and take them both out, right? That is similar to my thinking, right? I'm neither of you two. I'm an Englishman. I believe in the common law. The common law does not accept any form of authoritarian government, right? Fuck shot Oscar. So, making sure everyone understands that, the nearest I've seen to someone of my thinking, which means small government, reducing the tax burden, encouraging work, creating wealth by being industrious, which, by the way, when you get sent to prison, that is the whole point of a prison term, to make you into an industrious person, to make you think differently, to rehabilitate you, that you understand that criminality is not a good thing. Some people will always be criminals, right? Some people grow out of it. It's a bit like young people joining the army because they just want to go and kill people. When they realise what it's all about, they go, I ain't for me, I want out of this, right? It's the same thing with criminality, right? When people really see what they're about and who them people are, they don't want nothing to do with them, right? Anyone decent would not get involved with any form of organised crime. So, and again, which is why I say to young people, go and get yourself a trade, earn a pound note, find a good woman, be happily married, and produce children. You know, teach your kids the right way in a community, how to behave. Go back to being a high trust society. It's about restoring that high trust society, right? And again, I, I don't discriminate between white and black, right? White, black, or brown, right? I constitutionally, I believe that if you're first, second, third generation black or brown, then you cannot be in our parliament, right? That is the English constitution. But on the other hand, and again, I can show you the leaflets that we put out, right? If you're Scott, and again, this rule, this constitution rule, come about because the Dutch were taking liberties in England, right? But if I was to say, and I have said it and put it in a leaflet, right? If a Scotsman committed offence in England, I would send him away. I would say, you're banished from England. Don't want you here. But I expect that to be vice versa. If an Englishman went to Scotland and committed a crime, he should be banished from Scotland forever, right? The same in Wales, the same in Northern Ireland. I haven't got a problem with that, right? And they're the same race as us. But what I'm saying is, you even want to protect and promote your own communities, and that means you need to keep the people out who've got no respect for your nation. Those type of people committing crimes in your nation have got no respect for you whatsoever. And that's what you need to stop. And let me tell you something now, the banks have got absolutely no respect for anyone. They commit fraud every single day. The banking system is a fraud. Fractional reserve banking is a fraud. I have shown it on this show a million times. If I could go and play it again now, if someone's got the link to it, I'm sure that there's a link to fractional reserve banking and the debate in December 2014, right? The debate on money creation. I'll show that video just to make sure everyone understands. And where members of parliament stood up and said, if we was to do what the banking fraternity are doing today, we would be sent to prison for fraud. Why are we allowing this to continue? Henry Ford said, if people only knew how the banks operate, there would, and money is created, there would be revolution by the morning, right? So a lot of these things I'm talking through, it's just people say, yeah, but what you say goes over my head. It's all easy and simple to deal with. You can solve these problems because they're individual problems that have accumulated and been put in place by Fabians, right? In effect, and people that we don't want to get involved with. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. So when I get people like, I don't know, Steve Laws, right? And again, I'm not having a pop at him, calling me a Sivnat. When I look at him and I think, Sivnat, you refer to yourself as British, which is the ultimate Sivnat that has done this to this nation. Those people in that parliament have done this to us. And you want to call me a Sivnat? That is, I am a constitutionalist, an English constitutionalist, and within that sphere, right, a legal framework is nationalism, but it's English nationalism. That doesn't mean I don't like Wales, right? Don't mean I don't like Scotland or Northern Ireland or even Cornwall, right? It doesn't mean that. But these other nations have assisted with the destruction not only of London, but also of England. They haven't batted an eyelid about the destruction of England. Their nations have already been devolved. They are already not just on the ladder, they're in the European Union form of governance. And then you get these people that repeat. Do you remember when there was always an argument between Remainers for the European Union, and now it's funny how the unionists in this country are using the exact same arguments, showing there is no difference. what 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 the USSR taught us is you can turn it around quickly. In fact, we can learn from the Russians, and I'm sure in the bigger world of this, they want to assist us and say, look, these were our problems. You need to deal with crime first. You need to deal with the illegal immigration first. You need to deal with this first. You need to abolish this. You need to, and this is one of the things that in the USSR that they in Russia when it all got devolved, they purged Soviet judges. They purged communists from the system. The Bolsheviks, they purged them to get out. We don't want anything to do with that anymore. And then from there, I mean, some vultures steamed in. So does everyone sort of understand what I've been talking about? I feel like it's a high level, but this audience understands me. Give me an English flag if you completely agree. And by the way, put the Welsh flag in there, put the Scottish flag in there, put the Northern Irish flag in there. I haven't got a problem with any of that, right? But what I have got a problem is the indoctrination of the state and of our children for not understanding what the real constitution is. Everyone's coming through there. Well done. And we've seen an English flag flying up there. Look at them English flags. That's what I like to see. And remember, I am about England, right? And the English. The counties and shires, right? The local areas protecting themselves. So I think there is more I could say about this, especially about people like Nick Griffin. It is my opinion that he has done more to promote and to push forward in an organisational structure. There's no doubt in my mind that the BNP were organised. I would be suspicious in how much they was allowed to organise. A bit like Nigel Farage, a bit like UKIP, a bit controlled opposition. In other words, it's about containment. The English independence movement was right up there. If you go back 30 years ago, maybe even 40 years ago, but 30 years ago, the English independence movement was right up there, had 30,000 members. And again, there was no real internet, not in the way that we're talking about today, not mobile phones in the way we're talking about today. It was a different environment, right? So to have 30,000 members, literally by word of mouth, knocking on doors, talking to people actually knew and understood that they was English. And that's never gone away. If you go and look at the 2011 census, it tells you that, right? 32.4 million people have got a different opinion to Paul Morris, right? And if you go and have a look at that census, do you want me to bring that census up and show you what he said? Because, again, I'm about protecting England from what's going on, right? And the Welsh is already lost. And Scotland, if the majority of people in Scotland knew what was actually happened to them, and was told the truth by the media and told the truth by real Scots telling them, listen, what Graham Moore is saying to you is absolutely true. And by the way, they don't need a referendum to leave the union. If they've got enough MPs, all they do is go back, open up again, not an assembly, but they open it up as a sovereign parliament. They have a committee, right? And in that committee, they vote. And if it's a majority vote to avoid the union and have nothing more to do with it, they're out. They don't need a referendum. All they need is Westminster MPs to do that, right? And that's the bit that they know that, by the way, because we intervened in their Supreme Court case. Has anyone heard anything about this case coming up with? Because I'm waiting for the the result and when it's coming out. So I'll just have to wait and see what's going on with what's his name? Yeah.
Rupert Lowe.
Thanks for that. Rupert Lowe. Bam, that's right. Any other quick questions for me? We're going to keep going on to different things, but again, I want to go back to the beginning of this. I'm seeing some really good, interesting people involved with Restore. And people are actually standing up. I know, by the way, for running a political party and the oppression and suppression of the British against us and the censorship against us in full bore, right? I think it is very encouraging that people are stepping forward. But again, the containment of people, for me, it's always about you represent your community. So if you stood for the English Constitution Party, we haven't got any whips. Our manifesto is the English Constitution. And if you was, our primary thing is the restoration of the English Constitution, to give everyone their rights back, to curtail the power of the state, again, to make sure the separation of powers are separate, that real lawmaking goes back to the way it was intended to be, not the way it is now, which is basically a Politburo, otherwise known as a Star Chamber, right? So all of them things. Now, there is some other bits I was going to show you. I wonder if I can bring it up on the screen. Apart from our little mate. You see my little mate, haven't you? I'll show him again. I love my little mate. There he is. He's my little mate. Tinka Bell. I could just see her in stockings and suspenders. Right. Let me have a little look and see if I can take that back off. Right. Let's see. Let's see if I can bring this up for you. Oh. Let me have a look. I don't know what's going on there. Let me see if I can find this for you. Yeah, see, yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm not having a go at Paul Morris, but people jumped in and tried to help him out, and then it's not. It's what he sort of does is not a bit of me. I could say I was going to show you something else, but I won't do it now. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. There's two things I can do. I can talk about something that General Flynn put out this morning, which I think is hugely important, or I can show you the blown up pages of this, a really important judicial review, and some elements of the law and Wade and other bits and pieces on there. So you tell me what you want me to talk about. General Flynn and a really interesting situation that's developed in America, particularly to do with the law. Tell me what you want me to talk about. Definitely got BSM gear underneath with nipple tassels. Oh yeah, it's funny. Both. You want me to do both? All right. Well, let me do this first. Right, I'll do the General Flynn first because I do think this is important. When I read this, I was like, "Fuck!" Right? It's fairly obvious when you think about it, right? So what I'm going to do is bring it up on the screen, and everyone will see this was General Flynn, right? And I like General Flynn, even though some people don't like some of the things he says. But I'm going to put it on your screen. So again, General Mike Flynn, a murder for hire, 10 out of 10 dead. What the heck is going on, right? Now, again, that was General Flynn that's put this out. He's got a large, I think how many he's got? 2.2 million followers, right? And he follows me, by the way. And then it goes into this, right? This is Colonel Towner Watkins. To me, this is the dog that's not barking. The US government would be making a big deal out of this if they weren't the ones securing these folks. You don't have this level of security risk without any comment or all-out manhunt investigation. This is like a serial killer, right? Once you start, the FBI ain't stupid. Once you get a series of murders and they're all exactly the same profession in the exactly same type of science, right, at the highest level, right. Now, what I'm going to do is show you this, right. So, the kill list. It's an article. 10 scientists connected to America's most classified programs have died or vanished in 10 months, right? No one is investigating all of them, right? Her hands were small on the steering wheel, right? Her hands were small on the steering wheel. Monica, can you all see this? And you don't mind me reading this out to you? I was absolutely wow, right? Have a listen to this, right? Monica, and this is why Twitter is so important, because people are not seeing this, right? Monica Jacinto Reza drove Angeles Crest Highway with the windows down and the morning air thinning as the road climbed. She was 60 years old, 4 feet 11, a materials and processes engineering fellow at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Before JPL, she spent 30 years at Aerojet Rocketdyne, where she co-invented a nickel, cobalt, chromium, aluminium alloy called Mondalloy, right? That solved a strategic dependency the United States Air Force had been testifying about under oath for a decade. The inability to build a rocket engine, listen to this, that didn't rely on Russian combustion hardware. She named the alloy after herself and her mentor. 2 syllables, Monica, 2 from Dallas, the alloy suffix Monzal Oy, right? She signed the trail register at Mount Waterman on, and that's the trail register. She signed the trail register at Mount Waterman on June the 22nd, 2025. Date, destination. Party of 2. She hiked with a guide. They reached the West Ridge before 10. She waved. The guide returned the wave. 8 minutes later, she was gone. The ridge was empty. The screen was undisturbed. No tracks, no broken branches. 9 counties searched. FLIR helicopters, K9 units, drones running pixel matching algorithms for red fabric. They found a beanie in a ravine 200 yards below, a lip balm at location inconsistent with the beanie, nothing else. Nobody has been recovered. JPL issued no statement. NASA issued no statement. Aerojet Rocketdyne issued no statement. There she is waving from the ridge. 4 days later, June 26th, Elizabeth Callas badged into the Los Alamos National Laboratory, fabricated a reason to leave, drove to the Jemez Mountains, reset both phones, and walked into the forest. 2 women, 2 national laboratories, 2 forests, 4 days apart, 800 miles apart, On the same day, KS walked into the Jamez. A user identified as Lillian created a memorial on Find a Grave declaring Monica Jacinto Reza dead. Memorial ID 28438777. Burial designation Green Burial. Location Angeles National Forest. The Los Angeles County Sheriff Department was still helicopters searching. Nobody can't be found. Some like the Sheriff Department was still flying helicopters. 9 counties were still searching. Nobody had been found. Someone declared her dead while 9 counties were still looking for her alive, right? Deceased. October the 25th, 2025. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Jacob Pritchard, 34, AFRL, Census Directorate. His wife, Jamie Pritchard, 33, Air Force Life Cycle Manager Center. First Lieutenant Jamie Gusti, 25, USA Air Force Class of 2022, TS Science Clearance, Operations Research Analysis. One night, 2 locations on a base, 3 dead. The Air Force, the Air Force Office of Special Investigations took the case. Months later, no motive established, no public statement beyond the initial confirmation, no briefing to Congress. Wright-Patterson is the same installation where Reza's mentor, Dallas Hardwick, spent 13 years certifying the ally. The same installation where Major General William McCarsland held a command of a $4.4 billion research portfolio. Wow. The Materials and Manufacturing Directorate was still there in the low brick buildings on the east side of the base. The lights in the labs were still on. The program does not stop. Carl Grumer, 667, Coltech, 147 published papers. He designed the algorithms that find dark, cold objects against the black of space. December 20th, 2025, an armed man was found on his property carrying an unregistered rifle, arrested, charged with 2 felonies. February 5th, 2026, both charges dismissed. Judicial discretion. The identity of the presiding judge has not been located and is inaccessible public records. February the 16th, 2026, 11 days later, 6:10 a.m., Grillmar was shot on his front porch. Gunshot wound to the torso. He died at the scene. Court, charged, released, returned, killed him 11 days, right? Nuno Loureiro, 47, MIT Plasma Science and Fusion Center. Fusion, right? Remember that. Heat a plasma as well, right? And this is something to do with President Trump, right? He was trying to build the machine that would replace everything Reza's alloy was designed to survive. He was trying to build the machine that would replace everything Reza's alloy was designed to survive. Fusion, clean energy, the future. There is something going on here. Shot in Brookline, Massachusetts on December the 15th. This is all about energy, trust me. And if my thinking is correct, this is more to do with us building spaceships and anti-gravity technology, right, as well as another form, not nuclear energy, but another form of energy that is not used as weapon, can't be used for weapons grade, but produces the same energy. Shot in Brooklyn, Massachusetts on December the 15th, 2025. His killer had been planning for 3 years burner phones, 0 credit card usage, a storage unit in Hampshire maintained since 2022, 36 months. The unit was the size of a parking space. Stated motive, personal grievance. Burner phones are not grief. Not grief. A storage unit maintained for 3 years is not rage, right? February 27th, 2026, Aberystwyth, I think that is. William Neil McCausland, retired Major General, USA Air Force, 29 years old, fighter pilot, intelligence officer, former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, the man who funded the Allied maturation from laboratory curiosity to flight qualified engine component. Right, so this is advancing. He left his phone on the kitchen counter, his glasses on the table by the door. He took a .38 caliber revolver. He walked east towards Sandia foothills, the triangle that held the complete institutional memory of how Moldavia became the material that ended America's dependency on Russian rocket engines. Inventor, certifier, commander Reza Hardwick McCausland. All three verticals vacant. This morning, the count reached 10. This morning. Stephen Garcia, 48, government contractor at the Kansas City National Security Campus in Aberystwyth. I think I've been there, funny enough. The facility manufactures more than 80% of the non-nuclear components that go into the building America's nuclear weapons. Garcia served as a property custodian with top security clearance, broad access to the entire site. August 28th, 2025. He walked out of his home on Castile Court, Southwest, carrying a handgun. He left his phone, his wallet, his keys, his car. An anonymous source told the Daily Mail he was a very stable person, that the possibility of foreign targeting makes the most sense. Garcia, McCausland, Callas, Chavez, 4 people in New Mexico, walked into the desert carrying nothing. Same state, same pattern, same silence. Anthony Chavez, 79, former Los Alamos National Laboratory, vanished between the 4th and 8th of May 2025, left his phone, wallet, keys, cigarettes. Almost a year later, no new information has come to light. The investigations do not meet. The Los Angeles County Sheriff Department files documents about Rizzo. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office maintains McCausland's Silver Alert. AFOSI has the Wright-Patterson case. Brooklyn police have the Lorena murder book. The FBI, Akushko field office, never speaks to the FBI Boston field office. No cross-referencing mandate exists. No federal directives require these agencies to compare files. Each investigation operates in its jurisdiction. Each jurisdiction closes its case or keeps it open according to its own procedures. Between 1982 and 1990, approximately 25 scientists connected to the British defence contractor GCE Marconi died under circumstances that individually appeared inexplainable. Falls. Car accidents, drownings, a minister in Parliament acknowledged. Does everyone remember the MS? Was it MS or MH370? Was it the one that the aircraft that disappeared from China and it flew over the Indian Ocean? Completely disappeared. They never found the wreckage. And they never found anything. Everyone was dead, and the people on board that were all top technologists, and the whole flight disappeared. No centralized investigation was conducted then. No centralized investigation is being conducted now. The jurisdictional architecture was identical. The explanations were individual. The pattern was distributed across enough agencies that no single agency held the complete list. 1 in 1.8 trillion, that the number circulating this morning, the statistical probability of this cluster occurring by chance. And engine fires Inside the pre-burner, where the temperatures exceed 1,000 degrees, an oxygen-rich propellant would destroy any other material. The alloy holds. It carries two names in its syllables, Mondale. The institutions that use it do not say those names. The generals who testify before Congress about sovereign propulsion capability do not say those names. Somewhere in the San Gabriel Mountains, the wind moves through the sage on a ridge where no one is standing. The trail register at the below has been replaced. Her name is not in the new one. Think about that, right? So they've removed her name from the trail register. The metal holds in the dark where no one is watching. Assembled this because no single investigation holds the complete list. 10 names, 4 jurisdictions, 0 cross-referencing mandates, and here's a question I don't see the people asking. If the pattern is this visible, what is the architecture that keeps it distributed? The file is still open, right? And then it goes on to say, free eco, right? If this is your first time here, I write books about patterns that hide in plain sight. Start anywhere. I love you. Right, so I'm gonna send that out. That again, if you want me to go back to the original, I'll send you both so you can read through it yourself. But now, remember, it's a bit hard for people to understand, but I have spoke about a technology in America currently. It's highly advanced, and President Trump, his company has bought that technology. When I say it is the most advanced since nuclear power was invented, where it can't be used as weapons grade, the technology is as such, as I see this, and I understand what's going on with this Pacific alloy. You could create a tin can like that and run a whole town from the energy it creates perfectly safely, right? It is so disruptive to the oil, gas, and other barons, right? But it wouldn't. By the way, Trump isn't saying he wants to run. He wants electric. He's saying there should be a choice, and where there is a choice, so you have no monopolies. He's trying to take out the monopolies, right? So if you've seen that, did you all understand what I just read out? Let me go back to this part because I think it's really important that people get this. And then let's make sure that's him. And this one here is going all the way back. This is this kernel. Boom. Put that out there. And he goes through the kill list. And then go back to the original post. This is General Mike Flynn. Right, so again, and General Mike Flynn is out there. I think there's a lot going on in the background with what's going on. We're obviously not being told the truth. Anyway, that was that. Did you? So I'm asking this wonderful audience on a Thursday evening. That was deep, but I'm asking you the question: did you enjoy that and understand? Because it felt like it was taking it back to how can I put this? Don't look here, look here. and everyone's being distracted from about something or for something, and then someone is saying to you, "Have a look over here. There's a distraction going on. This is what's really going on. And I think was it MH17 or MH170 or 370? Someone in a chat will remember. Do you remember that aircraft that disappeared? That completely just went boom. It was gone. And they went, oh yeah, it's just crashed into the Indian Ocean. It just happened to have all the top scientists for a particular technology on it, right? 5B5, regard. Let's have a look. I know I need to remind me to contact 412 because I'm sure I fucked up completely and I'm supposed to be on his show again at some time. But with me back and other things and everything going on, I've been out of kilter with it all. I'll have to apologise to him. Graham, Colonel Tanner Watkins is a woman. Oh, really? Oh, woman in uniform. Oh. Chuck Money.
Malaysia Airlines.
Malaysia Airlines 37 disappeared from Kuala flight to Beijing. That's the one.
Yeah.
So it was, but it was called something. MH370. I think I was right there. Well done. Steve Baker debating banking in Parliament. YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I've got the whole thing out there. So again, I'm emphasising restore Britain. I believe in small government. I'm not a fascist. I don't believe that there should be any form. I think we should be free, right? And that is what the English Constitution has always supported. No authoritarian government should control us. I would put in place the Hong Kong tax system with a couple of tweaks, but 200 pages maximum. And the reason why some of these people don't like me in the background because it means most accountants would be out of business. You don't need accountants. Juicy and Lucy, think how much money you'd save on accountancy fees. If you wish to send Graham a personal donation, well done. Bobby Moore. Graham, can you please mention Palantir being rolled out data with no consent? I have mentioned that before. And by the way, if you look at most local councils, they are collecting data and sending it to Palantir as well. So if you think regionalisation has got nothing to do with this, it has. MH370 went down over the Indian Ocean, was hijacked by pilots as all the systems were progressively by hand. Well, what people don't realise is aircraft can be controlled remotely. Completely. You can lock out the pilot. That's what happened to another one. Remember the one that flew into a mountain, and there was one particular person on that aircraft that they needed dead. They didn't care about the 300 collateral damage and the babies on board. They needed that person dead, and they flew that plane into a mountain at 500 mile an hour, and all you got was the finest mincemeat of the pest people that was left. When you get flown into a mountain at 500 mile an hour, there ain't a lot left of you. There is a triangle in Australia as well. Jackaboo. Right, Palantir is tied up with that. Right, let me go and see if there's any questions. Let me come out of that one. One of Paul Morris's. Oh, right. So Paul Morris is BNP. Okay. Or was BNP. PSW1 McCarsland. Very interesting, only quickly skimmed. Real news, alleged missing retired Air Force general in military stockade for treason. Oh, so there's something going on in the background. Probably it could be to do with spying, it could be anything, right? Now what I'm going to do is briefly, very briefly, but I will show you something else because I think I need to. Here it is. There is something else I was going to show you, but it was more to do with the realities of what's going on. So we're talking about this on the screen. Let me put it on there. Now this comes from this book, Judicial Review, and again Michael Supperston QC, and it particularly covers. Let me hit that one. It particularly covers what I'm showing you on the screen. Oh, if I push it all the way up to the top, ultraviolet, right? So I'm going to bring that down a bit more. Hopefully you can see this and read it on the screen. You might skip a little bit of it because I won't be able to get to it. The so-called ultraviolet, let me pull that down. The so-called ultraviolet rule has long been thought to be a mainstay of our system of public law. What is public law? Public law are in effect, so the English Bill of Rights, 1688, is public law. The Declaration of Rights is private law. So the so-called ultra rule has long been thought of as a mainstay of our system of public law, and it is appropriate to marshal a substantive discussion of jurisdiction under this head, right? The true position stated, the foregoing introductory observations bear upon the extent to which the ultraviolet rule nowadays has any real utility as a tool of analysis. The rule may be taken to be enshrined in the proposition that the court will strike down decisions made by a public body, including Parliament, by the way, which it has no power to make. But this formula and the term ultraviolet itself have nothing to say as to what the court will count as want of power in the deciding body. And so of itself, it illuminates nothing. It amounts to no more than a tautology, right? So a tautology is tortious conduct, viz. That the court will strike down what it chooses to strike down. As Humpty Dumpty said, and Lord Aitken repeated as scornful, let me have a look at this. I've got to bring this up. You're going to get 3 or 4 of me going through this. This is some really important stuff that people don't understand, and they should. Scornful attribution of authority for the majority view in the House of Lords in Liversidge versus Anderson, 1942, AC 206 at 245. When I use a word, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. He got annoyed with the barrister. The ultraviolet rule only had content when the court recognised and acted upon a perceived distinction between two classes of defect in the decisions of reviewable bodies. One consisted of errors of law said to be within the jurisdiction of the decided body, the other of errors of law said to be outside its jurisdiction. The court only reviewed the latter, but that this distinction was in effect laid to rest by the House of Lords in Anseminic 1969 to AC 147 1969, blah, blah, blah. The House had to consider Section 4.4 of the Foreign Compensation Act 1950, and this is a quote. The determination by the Commission of any application made to them under this Act shall not be called into question in any court of law. Right? Now, just to make sure you understand this, those who say Parliament is sovereign do not understand one, the unlawful removal of part of Chapter 2 of the English Bill of Rights, public law, and the whole chapter, Chapter 3, which protected everything, including the Magna Carta, it was done ultra vires. They did not have the authority because they was an ordinary parliament, not a convention parliament, right? And that the English Bill of Rights says forever 3 times, and says in this kingdom for all time to come once, right? Now, I've already showed this on the show and went through and showed it. Now, what backs up what we're saying, not only of these cases, but also a guy called Sir William Wade, which I'm going to come to in a minute because he's actually mentioned here, and Sir John Laws in the Metric Martyrs case, who spells it out, right? So I'm going to carry on with this, so you'll be getting I will explain what this all means, right? The plaintiff company brought an action for a declaration nowadays since the O'Reilly case. It would be for an application for judicial review that a provisional determination by the Commission was a nullity, in that the determination had proceeded upon a misconstruction of a statutory instrument made under the Act. The defendants contended that the court lacked jurisdiction to entertain the claim by reason of Section 4.4. In other words, the court was being told, you can't do this, right? Because we have enacted a reference to keeping your nose out of it, right? And the court struck that down, right? And said, you can't do that, right? Because Parliament is not sovereign, right? There is a separation of powers, and it is core to the English Constitution. The defendants contended in the court, blah, 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 right? So that a purported determination which proceeded on a misconstruction of statutory instrument was not determination at all. So that Section 4.4 did not operate to preclude the court from requiring whether it was a nullity, and the declaration sought was granted. Lord Reed said, right, I have come without hesitation to the conclusion that in this case we are not prevented from inquiring whether the order of the Commission was a nullity. It has sometimes been said that it is only where a tribunal acts without jurisdiction, right, that its decision is a nullity, right? So the House of Parliament, the Parliament itself, it has always been known that it couldn't remove the Magna Carta, for example, because it was out of Parliament's jurisdiction. And that has been said, and it's in Hansard. You can go and read it, right? And I will bring it up if people want to see it. The major point to what I'm getting at here is jurisdiction is important. Ashby versus White 1703 and the events of that, don't forget, the Chief Justice that dealt with it and the Lords 10-2 agreed with Lord Justice Holt. In that case, Ashby versus White 1703, Queen Anne stepped in and prorogued Parliament, and her words were, how dare you debate the rights of an Englishman, and shut down Parliament, right? The Lords agreed, and she took advice of the Lords that what had happened by Parliament was unlawful and ultra vires, right? But the most important people should understand about is that Lord Chief Justice Holt was one of the framers of the English Bill of Rights. If anyone knew what he was fucking talking about, it was him, right? And again, Lord John Somers is another guy. And again, we had 43 of our people that created that Bill of Rights, right? And there was only 13 lords. So when people like William Kite talk absolute fucking bullshit, right? Someone has to stop people like him, right? Because he's propagating nonsense. And again, I guarantee he hasn't even read a fucking law book. God knows. And again, he was promoted on GB News by Oliver, whatever his name is, and it's not a good thing. So I'm going to carry on reading this because it's really important. I have come to the conclusion that it's better not to use the term except in a narrow and original sense of the tribunal being entitled to enter on the inquiry in question, but there are many cases where, although the tribunal had jurisdiction to enter onto the inquiry, it has done so or failed to do something in the course of the inquiry which is of such a nature that its decision is a nullity. It may have given its decision in bad faith, right? This is where, listen, if people like Rupert Lowe would actually sit down with me, right, and his legal team, they would completely understand what I'm saying because I can show it from legal history, right? Again, it's so simple and yet they complicate it. It may, right, so no power to make. It may have failed in the course of the inquiry to comply with the requirements of natural justice. It may, in perfect good faith, have misconstrued the provisions given it power to act, so it failed to deal with the question remitted to it and decided some question which was not remitted to it. It may have refused to take into account something which was required to take into account, like the English Bill of Rights. This is so important because every judge is required by law to take the English Bill of Rights into account. But you must tell the judge that, right? That's why you can use it in any court appearance, as long as you understand what it is you're doing and you pull that right out and say, that's what I'm looking at, right? Based on the decision about the provision setting it up. It had no right to take it into account. I do not intend this list to be exhaustive, right? But if it decides a question remitted to it for a decision without committing any of these errors, it is as much entitled to decide that question wrongly as it is to decide it rightly. And then it goes to the normal appeal system, right? Their lordships, save Lord Morris, who dissented, agreed in the result arrived at by Lord Reid, and their reasoning is nowhere inconsistent with this. So even the law lords are disagreeing with each other. This is why I'm saying you cannot be an expert in common law, right? Even experts disagree with each other. And what we've got now is a load of indoctrinated people. Result arrived at by Lord Reid, and reason is nowhere inconsistent with his. There has been doubt whether, in truth, the consequence of anti-Semitic was anisminic. Fuck knows what the one word is. Was his. There has been doubt whether, in truth, the consequence was to set at rest the distinction between errors within and errors without jurisdiction. See discussion in Wade, and so Sir William Wade, Administrative Law, 6th edition, page 299 FF. But Lord Diplock has roundly acknowledged it to be so in, right? I'm probably sending you all to sleep with this, but this is crucially important for people to really get their heads around, right? This is not rocket science, really. It can be boring to it. I find this fascinating, right? Racal Communications 1981 and in O'Reilly 1983, right? Blah, blah, blah. An acknowledgement which was perhaps the more blithe since Lord Diplock had himself set the fuse to explode the old distinction in his judgment in the Court of Appeal in Anisminic 1968. But in any case, the viability of distinction between errors within and without jurisdiction would require the existence of some code or frame, typically a statute, according to whose terms the body in question was obliged to operate. Otherwise, there is nothing to constitute the dividing line on either side of which error is in each category must respectively fall. But this condition is not met where, for example, judicial review is applied to a direct exercise of prerogative power, and the view obiter of the majority of their lordships in Council of Civil Service Unions 1985, AC 1840, was that in a proper case such as judicial review might lawfully be entertained by the court. At all events, the result of Annis Menick decision has been that inferior bodies are now reviewable for any area of law, and this is why the case was a millstone of fundamental importance in the development of administrative law. Thus, in my view, the distinction between errors within and errors without jurisdiction should be regarded as having passed into history, and the ultra-vires rule as having lost its utility. It might remain a convenient label for administrative action which is legally objectionable if our system of public administration action is legally objectionable and public law were construed on a unitary basis or founded upon a single principle, as, for instance, if the position were that the only ground for judicial review consisted of illegality, as described by Lord Diplock in the CCSU, then every decision of a public body could simply be said either to be ultra-vires or intra-vires, according to the court's view of the correct construction of the relevant statute. But of course, this is not the position. Now, what that basically says is you need to put the original Bill of Rights to the High Court, right, and say it said 3 times, yeah, and it was agreed by the Advocate General of Scotland in I think it was McCormack versus the Crown, 1953, right? And they said, and they accepted, the Advocate General in Scotland accepted, that if there are phrases in a law and it states that it's forever, you can't repeal that, right? That's the first thing. The second, either impliably or by on its bill, because it come from the Convention Parliament, and the Convention Parliament, and this is crucial, is not an ordinary parliament, right? And again, this is what William Kite doesn't get. We've had, I think, 3 times convention parliaments in the history of England, right? William Kite, I don't even consider English, right? I don't know where he comes from, where his family comes from, but he's proof that the people like him shouldn't be anywhere near allowed anywhere, right? But the position allowed anywhere near the law. The position now is on the best view of the law and set out above. The powers of the body reviewed are themselves a function of the power of reviewing court. Indeed, as regards the Crown, on the assumption that the direct exercise of prerogative power is open to judicial review, right? Now, if you was going to go and read Wade says, yeah, quite rightly, not just in my opinion, he explains it in law, that if the Crown hands a prerogative to Parliament, it is no longer a prerogative, and therefore it is judicial reviewable. It is only a prerogative if it is exercised by the Crown directly, by the monarch, right? And if that monarch passes it to Parliament to exercise their prerogative, it is no longer a prerogative. It's only a prerogative because it is the monarch and only the monarch that can exercise that prerogative. They have no right to pass it to someone else, right? Which is one of the reasons why this current monarchy should be they shouldn't exist anymore, because they're not actually doing their constitutional job. Does that make sense or not? Indeed, as regards the Crown, on the assumption that the direct exercise of prerogative power is open to judicial review, the limits of the Crown's jurisdiction, the extent of its vires are wholly determined by the court. There is no statute or other code to define them, but to see whether this view is correct, it is necessary to look at some other material. So William Wade, right? So again, remember I talk about him quite a lot, right? No mug. In fact, he's one of the best scholars we ever had. you can almost say that I've learnt law from Sir William Wade. I've read so much of his work, right? So William Wade does not agree that the ultra vires rule is of itself no longer a helpful concept. Let me just pause. I'm going to tell someone to blow, not blow job, blow a nose. Hang on.
Sorry.
It's all right. She's got a cold and she's sniffing, and then she thinks she's trying to blow her nose all gently. So I muted it and said, "Just blow, blow your nose, right?" Right. She probably just give it. So Sir William Wade does not agree with the ultra vires rule. Is itself no longer a helpful concept. In analysis of public law, he considers that as a matter of analysis, the basis for reviewing invalid acts is that they are void. He says administrative law, 6th edition, page 39, right? So he's given, right? And then he says in there, void or voidable is a distinction which applies naturally and without difficulty, right? And then again, they show you where this is. On consent of ultra vires, then it goes into is the rule basis of that. This is not complicated. Why ain't that going down? All right, that's because I'm not prattling about. I think this is the last page. There's a lot more to this. But then he gives, again, actions, and he gives the laws, and he gives the cases. He says to the basic distinction between action, this is ultra vires, an action which is liable to be quashed for error on the face of the record. Action which is ultra vires is unauthorised by law, right? Which is what I'm saying is that Parliament is not sovereign. It never has been. It wasn't just not authorised by law. It was specifically stated, you ain't allowed to do this, right? And by stealth, they started attacking the Bill of Rights in 1858 and 1948 with the British Nationality Act, right? So the revival is a reference to RV Northumberland Compensation Appeal Tribunal and all that. And Wade continues, an order which is ultra vires with any of the ramifications of the doctrine can only be void. Once the court condemns it as being void, it is seen to be who have been destitute of all legal effect from the outset, right? An order which is merely voidable, on the other hand, has legal effect up to the time when it is quashed, and in respect of that period, it remains valid order even after being quashed, right? So some people ask me, Graham, where did you get this? Where did you get this from? Where did you get your understanding that ultra vires or null and void, Nisho Abio, I think it's called, right? And why it is so important in law to recognise it? Because you'll have the same problem. We're supposed to learn by our mistakes, right? Because they didn't null and void the Acts of Union, not the Acts of Union, the European Communities Act of 1972, because it was ultra vires, in other words, unlawful, went against our constitution, it subverted our constitution, it was never law from day one. We would have absolutely demolished everything to do with the European Union. And I would suggest that someone like Rupert Lowe, who is so strongly opposed to the European Union and regulation in the way I am, would want to understand this. Now, that law student lady that I've given a shout out, this is the type of thing that she needs to understand, where I could sit there and say to her, listen, right, I might say, listen, bud, but I would say, listen, this is what you need to understand, right? And once you get that concept, you will win England back. You will win Scotland back. You will win Wales back. You will win Northern Ireland back, right? Because we can take out everything that they've done to try and destroy the Brotherhood of Nations, right? If people decide that, and again, the British Nationality Act has to be made void for what it's done, right? It's obvious, right, what it's done, the damage, right? But centuries ago. But an order vitiated merely by error on the face of it, intra-vires and within jurisdiction, but liable to be quashed because of the exceptional powers of control, which the courts established 3 centuries ago and which they recently revived, right? So again, all I'm doing is showing you what he said. This is such a crucial part of law, and he's telling you where to get this information, where to get the legal cases to back it up, right? And don't forget, Sir William Wade is now passed, right? So, and at page 353, having recognised that the meaning of void is relative, depending upon the court's willingness to grant relief in any particular situation, he says, but as long as the ultra vires doctrine remains the basis of administrative law, the correct epithet must be void, right? So why am I so strongly when they keep going appeal and I say, listen, it's void, right? It's ultra vires. It subverts our constitution, right? And especially anything that attacked the English Bill of Rights. It was the Protestant settlement, right, from the Glorious Revolution. And what I can see are these other people trying to push us towards a civil war. I believe they're Jesuit inspired and Jewish mafia inspired because they want to rewrite the Constitution and overwrite the Protestant settlement, right? And it's crucially important that people understand how important it is. Obviously, the premise of this last observation is the ultra-vires doctrine does remain the basis of administrative law, but the premise should, for the reasons I have sought to give now, be regarded as false, or at least as a merely empty proposition, right? Now, if I remember rightly, the person who was pushing that forward, right, was a guy. So again, I'm not having a pop, but I am telling you, the geezer who wrote this book, Judicial Review, was the head of the administrative court, Michael Supperston, right, and another one called James Gooden. I just fell on the floor. Right, so I want people to understand. This is really important for people to understand. I first come across that geezer. You're going to think this is hilarious. I first come across him because I was looking at a case that I completely disagreed with what the council was saying in my local borough, right? And the situation was this, that a geezer, not me, someone else, but I was interested in the case. This was probably about 20 years ago. And there was a particular car park in Welling, right? And the geezer, and it was a public car park. It was a council car park, right? And the geezer parked his car in there, but he had no road tax, right? So, and he didn't pay for the parking. So they give him a parking ticket, but then they give him a second parking ticket for having no road tax. So he brought a judicial review against the council to say that you can't fine me for not having any road tax because I wasn't on a highway. I wasn't on a public road. I was in a public car park, and a car park is not a road, right? And this guy Sapperson, as a barrister, acting as a barrister, and I believe the King's Counsel for the local council, basically argued these positions in the High Court that he was right and the council, but his arguments were so fucking stupid, right? I was saying, when I then see that he was the head of the administrative, he ended up, right? So he was a shit barrister, right? A shit QC. He'd never been in a court, never sat as a judge. He was almost an academic barrister and an academic judge, right? It never actually sat in on a court case ever, but he's now in charge of the administrative court. But I remember reading the case that he was involved with. You know, when you're sitting there thinking, surely the fuck they ain't put this fit cunt in charge of the administrative court, and they had, right? I was like, no. Well, and then I went back and checked, and it was the same geezer. his legal arguments in that case were so poor, it was laughable. I remember reading the case, right? I know I'm sad because I like law, and I was reading the case and I was just laughing. It was fucking obvious that the High Court judge was going to say, listen, it says your vehicle must be taxed on a highway. He's not on a highway. You had no right to put that ticket on his car and charge him and try and fine him for not being taxed. Your car parks don't say you must be taxed to use this car park, and it's not a highway, right? Do you all understand what I'm saying? I just thought it was hilarious. He ended up being in charge of the administrative court. I was like, oh fuck, right? So just to let you know, I do pick up these things, and when you've got experience, you think, I've heard that name. I've heard that name. Right? Where have I heard that name? And then I went back through everything and went, that's what it was. Right? Bearing in mind, so think that Welling was where we went on that march all them years ago. Anyway, sounds very similar to a good source. Right, I'm sure I've bored you all long enough. I am now gonna retire for the evening. I am grateful for all your assistance. I am going to read some more bits and pieces, and then I am going to go to bed. I've got the osteopath tomorrow. Got a few other things, and we have to start tidying up. So I am very grateful for you all tuning in tonight. Remember, I'm not having a pop at people out here. I do believe in restore. I don't believe that the union is any good anymore. We need to do something else, but it is a reset. And remember, I've had this before. You give people support, and then they turn on you, or not turn on you. I mean, I just didn't like him being bullied by Bullthorpe, but he's now in the. He's doing the same thing because he believes something different. I'm not having a go at him. It's just the way he is, and unfortunately, the state has indoctrinated to make people believe something that is completely false, and they've done it statutorily as well. So, and there is no such thing as a British Constitution. There never has been. That's it. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. Please go and assist any way you can in London. Anyone standing restore, but especially our fantastic. Let me go back over here and see if I can show them again. Oh, that's gone pear-shaped on me. We have got Shane, and we have also got... she's disappeared off my screen. So Shane is out there, and that lovely lady that I showed earlier, who's disappeared off my screen again. But no doubt I'll bring it up in a couple of seconds. No, it's all gone off my screen. So there you go. I think it was it Liberty? Was it Liberty? Lydia for Liberty or something like that? I don't know what it was. Anyway, my mind is going. More free light sleeves. Don't forget to hit the like button, right? So if you're all here watching now and you have enjoyed the conversation, hit the like button. I do want more people to come on and we'll do interviews and whatever, but we have to work on that in the background. Remember that when Bo Dade from Essex come on my show, he was a member of Reform, and they kicked him out of Reform because of it, right? Right? That's a form of censorship. Remember that. Don't forget that's it, Liberty Lydia. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. And remember that I can't do this without you. Hit the subscribe button. I want this channel going over 10,000 subscribers on Rumble this year. And if you're watching it and if you're on YouTube, come over, hit the subscribe button on Rumble, sign up to Rumble. It's free. It's going to replace YouTube, and trust me, it will. When people find out what YouTube really is, and Facebook, what it really is, these type of platforms are going to push out there. And again, subscribe and share as much as you can, but hit the like button. That's it. And I will be going. I did say this earlier. Let's see if I can bring it up again, because I think it's important. Bearing in mind, I live now in oh, it says room not found. I don't know what that means. I'm going to put that on the screen. Don't forget that there it is there. Sunday the 26th of April 2026 at Chagford Jubilee Hall. Doors open at 7 p.m. for a 7:30 start. Welcome Restore Britain members of Central Devon. Thank you for supporting Restore Britain, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the Central Devon branch. So what we want is quite a few of us to go. We're respectful. We're the good guys. We want to listen to what they've got to say. But I want, if we can get that well attended, especially from people who watch us in Devon, you know that Devon is crucially important. When I say crucially important, I mean crucially important to the English because of the Glorious Revolution and a lot of history down there. So I will be doing a documentary on that at some stage. As always, cheers, Graham. Yeah, thank you for everyone's support. And I am saying good night, God bless, signing off. Au revoir, tiddly poo. Hope I ain't forgot to do nothing.